Whoa! That was pretty interesting. I mean, like, the first half, it wasn't that terribly exciting, but the second half, oh man, it just showed how wrong I was with predicting going into this episode, because I was thinking that Brad, was totally doomed, and that there was no way he could have survived the episode, although I did predict that it was fairly likely he could get through the first half, and he did, but then he wins immunity in the second half. Ugh. There we go, and I believe in my last video I said that Michaela probably wouldn't be in that much hot water, and yet she ends up getting voted out, albeit she probably wouldn't have gone had that fiasco not occurred, yeah. But it goes to show I'm proven wrong again. In a comical way, though, I'll give you that much. So, for that first pre-challenge segment, there really wasn't much for me to see, though, except we got a couple of Andrea being arrogant in her confessional bits, kind of like how she was in Caramone after she won her immunity, which got me thinking, a little odd that she's getting a little too complacent here, but I've been predicting for a long time that it's going to catch up with her, that she's going to go eventually. And this is the point in the game where she has been voted out previously, so... Right. So then we get into that challenge, which I remember as the South Pacific Final 5 challenge, where Sophie was complaining to Albert that he should pick up all of her blocks, yeah. And as I was watching that, I was, like, noting Aubrey's stack, and I'm like, that is totally gonna fall away, along with Andrea and Michaela. Well, I was right about Andrea and Michaela, but Aubrey, amazingly, was actually able to pull that challenge win out, and I was like, woohoo! So she finally does something right this season, it seems. Although, of course, she hasn't voted for the wrong person, so that kind of robs her of it. Yeah, she was like, it's time to put something on my resume. Yeah, Aubrey. Nothing's gonna really happen on your end, and this reinforces something that I had been thinking back in Koran, that even though she did play a very nice strategic game, compared to a couple of other people that have been voted out prior in the season, and compared to people in other seasons, Aubrey doesn't really hold up that much, if you ask me. Like, a lot of people argue for Kim from One World. I need to rewatch the season to really think about that again, yeah. So then at camp, it gradually comes down to the obvious target, which is Brad, or will Andrea's shenanigans finally catch up to her and she gets booted. And, like, I would have been disappointed either way, but heading into Tribal, unlike last time where Sierra was voted out, I really couldn't figure out who was going to go. I couldn't get as good of a read off everyone, so finally I just said, okay, Brain, put yourself at rest, just pick, like, Andrea and just have done with it. Why Andrea? I don't know. I just settled on her, and I'm like, okay, fine, just pick somebody. Well, after she got the fourth vote, clearly she was going. And, like, with the past couple of times, she's like, what? Yeah. Every time you leave, Andrea, you're blindsided. It's just crazy. And it's always at the same point in the game, because the first time she was voted onto Redemption Island, it was day 32, Caramone day 33, and here it's day 33 again. And like Debbie pointed out in her confessional, so many people, at least on the jury, end up getting voted out in like the same place or the same day that they were voted out previously. Haley, first jury member again. Ozzy, second jury member again, albeit on a bigger jury. Debbie, third jury member on a bigger jury. Zeke got 5 votes to be voted out with the same number of people. Andrea got booted on the same day, albeit with more people. Yeah. It's real interesting, isn't it? So, thoughts on Andrea this season, real quick. Even though I've been kind of pointing out various flaws in her edit and pointed out that, that she's been arrogant, My dislike of her hasn't risen at all anyway, because I've actually, why did I phrase it that way? I've never really disliked Andrea, because the moment I heard that she was coming back for Caramel, I got on the Andrea bandwagon, because I was like, I think that there's more to see from her, and I hope she does well. And yeah, she went from being someone who you all thought was worthless, but actually made a fairly decent name for herself on this show. I mean, like, she's got 4 immunity wins, which ties Pav and Amanda's record, albeit she did it over 3 seasons and was given one of them. She lasted 103 days in the game, I think, and if you don't count the Redemption Island bit, she actually got to like the same day pretty much all 3 times. That's pretty impressive. Getting deep, yeah. She's done well, so if she could just vote for the winner of this season again, yeah. Nice job, Andrea. And I hope that this time, actually, though, she stays true to her guns and says that she doesn't come back, because there's nothing left for her to do except to win the game, you know? She's established herself as a threat. And, yeah, so I think you should really, close the book on this, Andrea. Not as someone who's been annoyed with you, but it's just time, you know? Right. So everyone comes back from the tribal, and then we have that moment where Ty is comforting Aubrey, but the problem was, even though there was an immediate fallout from that, there wasn't any real subsequent falling out. I mean, like, there was a little bit of that coming at the tribal, but that was mainly because Brad had won immunity. So just... yeah, I wish that they had found a better way to incorporate Ty's bits in there. It just felt kind of random to me. Kind of like how Suri rose to prominence last round a little bit after being dormant for a little while. It's just odd, you know, with some people's edits this season, yeah. From my perspective. So that immunity challenge, I didn't really feel like there was too much at stake, to be honest. I'm like, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the show. But amazingly, Brad was able to pull it out after Michaela didn't notice that she had 2 pieces swapped on there. And yeah, that would fool everyone. And I kind of wish, you know, that they hadn't made her puzzle black, because I think that played a trick on her mind, because obviously there's the alternating black and white pattern, but if the puzzle itself is black, that's going to fool some people. Yeah. I'm not saying that that was totally unfair, I just think that in hindsight they probably shouldn't have done that. But I think she probably would have made that mistake regardless, because she was focusing more on, you know, making all the puzzles fit in there. But yeah, Brad pulling that out, I didn't really see that coming, so to all those people who argue, oh, this person really needs to win and it gets booted, you can argue that a little bit, but there was not nearly as much at stake for him needing to pull that out than there was for other people that have been on this show, so... Yeah, but once he did, I was like, hoo-hoo, this is gonna stir the pot up! And sure enough, it did, and everyone starts thinking about some stuff. And even though we had that confessional where Troy Zan is like, I'm going to bring my eye to the tribal, given how nothing else happened, I'm like, you're fine, dude, you're fine. And then they start trying to throw Ty under the bus a little bit, but it's mainly for just, I think, ultimately kind of minor stuff, like how that 3rd iteration of Nuku was trying to consider voting him out when they actually voted out Sandra. Because that's the thing about Ty, it's not so much gameplay moves that get him in trouble, it's just casual social stuff that gets him thrown under the bus, that kind of a thing. It's odd, yeah. You can argue he's like one of the bigger stumbling people that happens to get real far in both of his seasons, and if he makes it to the end again, which he could still, gonna be real interesting to see what Jeff makes of him at the reunion, yeah. And then we have the bit where Sarah gives Suri her advantage, and then Suri starts saying that she's going to use the advantage, which I had been thinking that she could, because even though Sarah did phrase it as, I'm lending it to you to hold on for this tribal as a symbol of my trust. I'm like, doesn't that kind of count as you giving it to her, at least for that tribal? It's kind of odd because, like, Steven mentioned in one of his know-it-alls bits that in Token Teens, he had actually found the idol for his tribe, and that Taj had the idol in her person for a while, and Steven actually asked producers who technically owns the idol, and they said it's you, so yeah. It's a little bit of a gray area that they really need to explain, but gradually we get these things answered, and like, yeah, I did read a bunch of the survival rules, especially tiebreakers a while back, but I don't remember everything, yeah, and it amazes me that it seems like there's still a few people out there who don't really look at the rules for Survivor, like all those people who were confused about the tie-breaking situation in Cambodia. How could you be confused? If you had done some research on that tiebreaker, it would have made perfect sense. Yeah. So at that tribal, we have the moment where Suri tries to do that to Moment to steal Sarah's vote, and the way she phrased it, it seems like most people are interpreting that as she wanted to save Sarah, but I think it was both, in hindsight, save and yet undermine Sarah. Basically take the credit. I think I took that off Steven and Rob's discussion, but in hindsight, that's what makes the most sense to me. I couldn't really figure out what she was doing at the moment, yeah. But then Sarah brings up non-transferable, and that really hurts Suri right there, because she had tried to make a move, and it blew up in her face, and then given how Michaela ended up leaving, who was the first, huge ally that Suri ended up getting, even though many people will argue Andrea as being her first ally, I think. Yeah, Suri. Right. So there's a lot of back and forth going on at the tribal there, and I was just sitting back and watching the show going, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? But in the end, Sarah gets the advantage back and steals Ty's vote, which I kind of begin to think that would be better to do, because I don't know why I was doing this, but I was like, don't steal Suri's vote, steal Ty's vote. I don't know why I did that, I just did. So then, no idols get played, and I'm like, ooh, that's a big risk on Ty there. Well, it turned out not to matter, because Michaela ended up getting voted out, and given how they had shown Aubrey and Michaela voting for Ty, I was pretty much able to figure out who voted for who. So, yeah, that was a shock, because I've been kind of hoping that Michaela would get going for a while now, because even though I didn't hate Michaela, I didn't really want her to win this game. And also I wanted another Mana member to be voted out, because we actually had 5 new crew members voted out in a row. So, yeah, and like, had a new crew member left this time, or Brad not won immediately because he was with new crew originally, we would have been even in terms of Mana and new crew members for the first time since the season started. Interesting, huh? But yeah, Michaela ended up getting blindsided in a pretty shocking bit, and that totally disrupted the game. Nice. Sets it up for a pretty interesting finale, given how we've got 4 idols that can be played in the final 6, because the legacy advantage is an idol. What do they call it? Legacy, right? So, thoughts on the remaining people. Okay, going from least likely to win to most likely to win, in my opinion. First off, Troyzan, this guy can't win, okay? The only way he can win is if he's against Aubrey and Ty, and even then, I still don't see how he can win. He's been invisible. Like, after he got that idol, just nothing happened to him. Oh, he joined Brad, yeah, but that was Brad and Sierra, okay? Just, ugh. Yeah, this guy can't win. No way. Which is going to be a bit of a bummer when it comes to regarding his edit. I mean, like, sure, you know, he gets further in the game, which is definitely nice for him, you know, and he's not being bitched at and not really in the category of likely to get fan favor, but then surprisingly not to get it, like his last season, mainly because they don't do fan favor anymore, but just, yeah. I can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him, but, Right. Next up, we've got Aubrey. Yeah, I don't see how she could win either. Like, she has to be up against Troyzan and Tai, and have Tai really shoot himself in the foot, because that's the real thing that's interesting. Even though he keeps making mistakes, he has yet to totally shoot himself in the foot, even though his chances of winning these past couple of episodes have been declining fairly smoothly down. Yeah, Tai. But even after she got the immunity this episode, just ultimately not that much happened to her. She's been invisible for pretty much the entire season, like with Troyzan, and just, yeah. Tad bit of a bummer for all of us who were rooting for her and co-Ron, but yeah, toodaloo. Okay, then we've got a Tai. He has a decent shot of making it to the end, but given what the previews showed, it looks like that might not actually happen. But, like, even though he doesn't really have too many enemies, he doesn't really have that much to show for it. He's got to hope that all the other three people that I haven't mentioned go, or that the jury decides to really stick it to one of the other three when they're sitting next to him. So, yeah, I can't really see him pulling this out. Now, to be fair, though, it's a little better than last time, because last time, he ruffled a few people's feathers and obviously fitted himself into that role where he had forfeited his chances. Here, it's not so much that he's forfeited his chances, that everyone's actions have kind of, like, taken it away from him. Now, he has, well, he did vote for Sierra, I'll give him that, but it didn't actually matter, and Sierra did write his name down, so in a way it is justified. But, like, yeah. I just can't really see this guy pulling it out, although I do want to see what his impact is going to be for Brad and Troyzan, and, like, why he decides that he wants to actually go back to them, because I did find it a little odd just how easily he distanced himself, even though one could argue that he actually just decided to group with Michaela, and they decided to vote in their interests and get rid of strategic threats. Yeah. Okay. And, I'm honestly having a tough time deciding who's 3 and 2, so I'm going to not assign numbers to Suri and Brad. Now, I'm going to piss a few people off with that, but the issue is they've both got their own problems, because Suri, given how she didn't go to tribal before the merge, she was invisible at the start, then she began to manipulate some things at the merge, but it was on, off, which can work, yes, but with this move that she's done here, and how she lost her closest allies in this episode, a lot of her credibility is gone. Now, to be fair, okay, she has gotten to the final 6 without her name getting written down, and having that huge reputation of being a threat, even though in HVV she wasn't really that great, but pretty much no one on that tribe was good, so yeah. But yeah, I'm just not feeling it. I haven't been feeling it for a while now in her mind, because, okay, if she is able to pull it out, okay, and can convince that jury at the end, I'll give my nod of approval to her, but on a personal level, I'd rather her not win this, honestly. And then there's Brad, who did well before the merge, then at the merge kind of lost control, even though it was his own alliance. Yes, he's ruffled people's feathers, but to be fair, there was some arrogance on, like, Michaela telling him to go fish this episode, so it is kind of deserved, and people throw tons of fits out there, It's a microcosm, and the thing is also, what we would call explosive or bad survivor is actually pretty much average Big Brother, so when you look at it that way, yeah. So even though he has pissed some people off on the jury, he has been trying to do some stuff. And I feel like if he makes it, he has a decent chance of, getting some people to go over to him. He does have to get rid of the Power Girls to really secure his shot, but he still has a decent argument, I feel, even though I do feel like if Sarah is next to him, she will beat him, and that Suri has a real good shot of beating him. Once I actually see what the jury is saying to them, I'll be able to make up my mind, like, instantly, right? But somehow I doubt that Suri and Brad are both going to end up in the final three, so maybe I'm just complaining about nothing, right? And then Sarah, well, she's been rising in prominence for a good while now, and like the more I look back to that speech she gave where Varner was voted out, I remember when I first saw that, it seemed kind of sudden, but it does seem like that they're fitting her with the winner's edit, and at first I, didn't really believe her grudge were rising up, but now I definitely have a lot more of support for her. Along with Brad, I'm really rooting for her because Suri, even though if she can pull it out, as I said, I'll give my nod. I don't really want her to win. Aubrey and Troyzan can't win this game at all, and Ty, that really would not be a satisfactory conclusion. So, yeah, so mainly I'm pulling for her and Brad, and I feel like if she gets there, I don't really see anyone that can beat her. Even if it's Suri, I think it'll be Sarah that triumphs here. It won't exactly be easy, but I think that she could definitely negotiate with these people. Yeah. So I think that sums it up because this is becoming way too long. See ya.